Welcome to Coffee with the Closer, where we're having real conversations with real professionals who get things done. Over a cup of coffee, we'll talk about what it really takes to succeed in real estate, mortgage lending, and serving our communities. So today, I am really excited to have Renee O'Brien with us,
Hi.
who has been a longtime veteran. Renee, tell us how long you've been in the business.
So I think about it a little less than 20 years. I think it works out to 17. 16, though, in the Wisconsin, Illinois area.
Wow. That's a long time. So before we get into our interview, one question that I wanted to ask is, this is called Coffee with a Closer. Are you Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks?
Yes, both, but my preference is with the client. So if I have an opportunity to meet somebody, if they have a favorite, I'll go with that, but I like them all.
So, I'm a Dunkin' Donuts girl, but I'm not opposed to Starbucks. When I do go to Starbucks, I like a cinnamon dulce latte. That's my favorite there.
Well, my guilty pleasure, if I have nothing else to consume calorie-wise in the day, I'll get a Frappuccino. I think those are definitely an indulgence.
If you're not at a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks, do you have a favorite local coffee shop that you like to go to?
I do. I have a couple. There's one in Zion called It's All Good.
Okay.
I really enjoy that place. There's one in Libertyville called Hansa.
Oh, I've been to Hansa.
I
That's
like-
really good.
That one is just kind of industrial, cutesy, kitschy. I like that one.
Yeah.
Even as far as Janesville, there's a cute little mocha place that's in Janesville. So I tend to pick local favorites just because
Yeah.
the charm and the supporting the local community.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Renee, so you work in both Illinois and Wisconsin. Do you see any big challenges between the two, and how do you overcome it?
So I think what people assume is, ooh, Wisconsin has lower taxes, and so it'll be cheaper to live there. But there's commuting costs that you have to balance depending upon where you're coming from. So like staying close to the interstate is good for some of the Wisconsin choices. Illinois has a property tax benefit for veterans and disabled veterans
Really? Okay.
that Wisconsin doesn't have unless you've already lived there 5 years, which is actually something a lot of people don't know, that there even is a benefit in Wisconsin, but there is.
Oh, really? That's actually something I didn't know, so thanks for bringing that up. So, do you have a preference with working in Illinois or Wisconsin, or what are some of the major differences there?
So I do have preferences, but it's both. So I really enjoy some of the added support from the attorney aspect and the Illinois deals, because you've got someone watching the legal language, someone protecting your client legally. I really, really like that. And yet it's not popular in Wisconsin because it's meant to be more collaborative and cooperative.
Okay.
But I do enjoy like not being a lawyer on Tuesdays and Thursdays in Illinois.
Nice.
But I also really like the travel times in Wisconsin better because the thoroughfares are prettier and the drives are nicer and more straightforward and less traffic.
Yeah, when you say Wisconsin, so it's not just like Kenosha, Pleasant Prairie. Like, where all do you go in Wisconsin?
Wow, so Milwaukee is kind of a more northern point, places around there.
Okay.
As far west as Darien, Delavon, Lake Geneva, even Janesville. I
Okay.
have a listing in Janesville. Waukesha sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but those aren't my frequents. My frequents are Racine, Milwaukee, and Kenosha counties.
Okay. Would you say you do more Illinois than Wisconsin, or is it kind of 50-50?
So historically, it's been much more Illinois than Wisconsin.
Okay.
60-40 maybe, and sometimes more. But this year, I think I've done more Wisconsin than I have Illinois, and that's kind of interesting.
Really? Okay. Awesome. Can you share a story with me of maybe a transaction that maybe had some challenges and what you did to kind of make a difference?
So there's a lady in my neighborhood, wonderful, sweet lady, who actually had been a realtor and had always for sale by owner her own houses after she stopped being a realtor because she felt comfortable with that knowledge base.
Yeah.
But was feeling some family pressures and working full time and decided that it was time to farm that out. And it worked out really, really well because she had a complicated situation where, getting the family members to cooperate on getting the house ready was very challenging.
Okay.
So I could provide her with contractors and staffers and just helpers to get stuff done, put stuff in boxes, move it out of the way, help haul stuff away. And it turned out it was a horribly sad situation. Her husband woke up dead the morning before closing,
Oh, goodness.
and we had to round up death certificates or or substitutes for that. And the team I have with my favorite attorney and inspectors and the whole shebang of contractors really made it possible for her to be hands off on the process.
Okay.
So if I could describe to somebody my ideal transaction would be, you say, oh, I want to sell my house. and then I do all the stuff I do and hand you a check, and you go, okay, thank you.
Stress free, right?
I want to take the parts that I can do away from you
Yeah.
because I expect you to know none of them.
So, what I hear in your story is the importance of networking and having a network, right? You need to have your contractors, your plumbers, your attorneys, your lenders. Tell us why that's important.
Well, there's a couple of good reasons. One is you want people handling the critical pieces of your transaction competently and timely fashion with just absolute trust. So I can hand off something to my lawyer and know no beat will be missed.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute and the negotiation and the conversation and the client care are all there. So that to me is really, really, really essential. Additionally, though, I find myself networking with other agents because if somebody calls me on one of my listings and I see their name on my phone, I'm like, oh, I want to talk to Jill.
Yeah, right?
So I want that interaction. So the longer I've been in the business and the more transactions I've done, I've gotten to know the bulk of the agents in the area. So I can just call up and say, Lori, will your guy go 220 on that, that condo? And
Right.
we can have those conversations before other agents might not even call you to tell you have an offer.
Yeah.
But if we're talking on the phone or we're having, relationship-based dialogue, I think it really helps the client a lot.
And I suppose it helps that you're licensed in both Illinois and Wisconsin, because there might be some agents in Illinois that don't do Wisconsin, and maybe some agents in Wisconsin that don't do Illinois. So by networking with them, they know they have a trusted partner.
1,000%, and both ways.
Yeah. And working with a team in a transaction. So having your lender, your attorney, why is it important to have that team for the client?
Well, I mean, my assumption is that if I have sold somewhere around 1,000 houses, most clients in their lifetime will never sell more than 7.
Okay.
So I expect them to know nothing about the process and not to come equipped with a team. I have the team. Let me bring the team to you so that you don't have to think about the pieces parts. Do you need insurance? Do you need a lender? I really enjoy having a favorite lender, Michelle. I really enjoy just saying, no, you have to call Michelle.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But no, I mean, it's so true. And likewise, I think there's really something special about having a team together because you don't miss a beat, right? You want to give the client that experience that they're not just a client, but they're a raving fan. And by having a team together, that makes it possible sometimes.
Well, and sometimes my vendors or partners in the team are even better liked than me. Like my photographer will go and they'll call me and go, she was so wonderful. She moved the counter items and the trash can in the plant, and she moved the chair and really got to capture the space of the room. Sometimes, whether my house cleaner is something they use for that one-time move, but then end up keeping her. So it's a good trade-off both for my vendors, but for my clients too, because they just didn't think about it ahead of time.
Yeah, right. Awesome. So, Renee, what do you think are the top 3 things that home buyers worry about in the market today?
So home buyers are concerned with, I could call it FOMO, not getting the house that they wanted because of the competitive atmosphere.
Okay.
And so that's, again, where the networking comes in. If I know that we're going to have to write a competitive offer, I kind of want to know, what does that range even look like? And if I have rapport with the other agents, I can help sort that out and then discuss it with my buyer before we put something on paper that we all understand is a certain part of the process.
Okay.
And I think it really helps both the opposing side of the transaction agent as well as my client. It makes the communication stronger, and it illustrates a person's seriousness when you can have those conversations.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. How competitive is the market these days? Are you seeing a lot of cases where there's multiple offers on homes, or maybe does it depend on the price point?
All of the above.
Okay.
So I think my busiest price point is anything between 2 and 5.
Okay.
So those are the most competitive and busiest. And then the higher price points are still busy, but at a different pace. So the pacing is different. The numbers of showings will be different. The numbers of offers and cash offers will be different. But through all segments, there is some competitiveness. But I will say there is a shift in speed that's happened in this fourth quarter, where there are fewer showings and fewer offers, but still competitive and still sometimes over list. And the key is condition, location, price. If all those things line up, the home will still be popular in a limited inventory situation. So you've got to say, well, I've got 5 houses to pick from. Which one do I like the best? Guess what? It's the same one 5 other people like the best.
Right.
So you have to be able to structure your offers and your conversations with your clients on how to best win what you want, and do you love it? Does it check your boxes, or do you love it?
Right.
And are you willing to pay the difference for loving it, or are you okay with just checking the boxes? So you have to really kind of educate and listen and see what's important to your client, because sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's location, sometimes it's lifestyle.
Right. So. Okay. And that's, I guess, where it comes in, and working with an experienced real estate agent really helps.
Well, I think when I was a newer agent, I was eager to find the house. Like, oh, I'll help you find what you're looking for. And I think the bigger skill I've learned over time was listening and seeing what are some of the drivers. Why are you moving?
Right.
What do you need to accomplish when you move? Where are you going next, and when do you want to get there?
Right.
Because everybody focuses on hiring a realtor so much for the dollar amount at the end of the day. They aren't necessarily looking at what's the value of obtaining your goal.
Right.
And the need structure. So if you've got a disabled person in the house who can't get out of showings, well, how do we accommodate that to get the most foot traffic possible? Like, there's a million situations that you have to think creatively and understand what affects the market. So if I say, okay, we're going to do, for the person with the disability, we're going to do Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday from 2 to 4, right? So we make an opportunity for them to get out of the house that still aligns with where people will want to see it.
Okay.
Because you don't want to do just a weekend, because some people, aren't in town, or they only work weekends or evenings. And so you really have to balance all of the choices to help the client the best.
Yeah, that makes sense. So being in the industry as long as you have, do you have any funny stories or any memorable stories that you want to share with us?
Oh my gosh, there are some pretty funny ones. I think maybe the only time I ever rolled on the floor laughing out loud was at a house that my clients and I decided was a vampire house.
Really?
Yes. It had layer after layer after layer of curtains and blinds and closures on all the windows.
Okay.
The mirrors had blinds covering the mirror. The light fixtures that were built in had covers on them. The microwave had electrical tape over the number. The smoke detector had electrical tape over the light. And at some point down the line, we just decided this is a vampire house. And we just started rolling because it all lined up, and it was just the silliest thing. So that's one.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Another one I had, I like to joke about having been in the business long enough to have my first murder house.
Okay, tell me about that.
So there was a house in the area where some family tragic situation had happened, and I was actually acquainted with some members of the family.
Okay.
So when somebody asked me to look for a house in a certain neighborhood, I'm like, you know what? I might know how to fix this. So I called the people in the neighborhood and sent them all emails and said, hey, do you know anybody who wants to sell? And it all drilled down to this one house that I thought might be the one.
Okay.
And it was. And I showed it to the buyer, and they loved it.
Okay.
And they loved it, and they loved it. So I talked to the seller about, how to negotiate and present this. And I asked him, I said, how do you feel about the 800-pound gorilla in the room? Should I or shouldn't I tell the buyer? And they said, no, don't. So then I was like, oh no, I was planning on telling them because they're my client, a young family. They're going to want to know.
Yeah.
So I had to think of a way to frame it in such a way that I told them without telling them.
Okay.
And so that was fun. And I did figure out a way. It was to ask them about another house that we saw. And I said, well, what if something domestic turned tragic in that case? And he said, oh, no. And I went, oh. And he goes, why? Are you talking about this house? And I said, I'm not allowed to say.
Okay.
He's like, oh, I'll call you right back. And then he called me. He texted me back and he said, we're okay with it. And I thought, well, there's room for miscommunication here. So I said, okay with what? And he said, the tragedy. I went, okay, good. We're good.
All right.
And he was all good, and it all went beautifully.
I guess that's where experience just comes in, right?
Well, and I was tickled because he got a house significantly below the price point he was looking for with everything he wanted it to do.
Okay.
And I was able to get the seller with the tragedy in place more money than any house in that neighborhood had sold for to date.
Oh,
And it's still
wow.
kind of the standard bearer for the price of the neighborhood.
That's
So it's just that
awesome.
opportunity to collect all the pieces and make a win for everybody.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Great job on that. So, Renee, can you tell me one market trend that you're seeing going into 2026?
So, we're watching how those things affect both sides of transactions, buyers and sellers. And I've seen a little bit of loosening up of people that are like locked into their houses. They've got low interest rates, they've got lots of equity. They're trying to balance, what do I want to do in a competitive marketplace? And we're starting to see a little bit of let go. People are thinking, okay, maybe I really can sell. So I'm hoping we'll see some more inventory
Yeah.
and some more flexibility. And I also see a little bit of the maddening pace slowing down a little bit too. So we're still in what we call a seller's market,
Okay.
which is, a number of months of inventory that has sold, in a period of time. It's actually coming down a little bit, but it's still on the half of the seller. So
Okay.
there's still room for dialogue, but condition starts to matter.
Right.
So, and I think that
I guess it comes down to pain point too, right? Like at what point do you have too many people in one bedroom, or at what point, have you outgrown the house or just don't have a need for such a large space? At what point does it make sense for you to move on to that next home?
I've noticed that I've transitioned a lot to downsizers. It just seems to be like a river that's happening right now. A lot of people are downsizing.
Really?
And you'll see that there's a shortage of one level homes with or homes with master bedrooms on the first floor.
Okay.
There's kind of a shortage of that, so they're very high demand. So that's something too.
Okay.
And I'm also seeing a shift towards smarter processes. And when I say that, I mean more technologically driven processes like
Sure.
using AI or even some of the tools for scheduling and showing homes.
Oh.
So there's opportunities for people to connect more closely
Yeah.
with agents or their agent. So I really enjoy that. I have a new app for my website that I actually think is a better interface than either the MLS or some of the larger third-party sites, which
Yeah.
is such a gift to be able to tie it into a collaborative exchange.
Yeah, I think like technology is changing so fast right now. We're all just trying to like run and keep up with it, but that's awesome that you're kind of adapting that in some ways that work for your clients. So, Renee, you've been in the business a long time and you have a lot of repeat business, right? Referral business from your past clients. What are some things that you do to maybe stay top of mind or stay relevant so that they remember you, right?
So top of mind is hard because if you have a large client base, sometimes it can be daunting to try and reach out to all of them. So if you can manage some of the technical processes of responses and ongoing outreaches, then you can target somebody that's responsive to that, or you can target somebody that you're thinking of in a particular season. And so I find it can be very daunting to do that, but it's very rewarding to connect with the individual clients. For me, the biggest thing I do to stay memorable is try to be the agent in the transaction that I would want to hire. So if I can meet my own standard, chances are I might have met yours also.
Okay.
So, it's a good baseline to say, this is my absolute standard and nothing below it is good enough.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's a stressful time. It's important. And I never feel quite as happy as when I've done a good enough job that somebody refers me to a client with trust. You have to use Renee because.
Right.
And that is the most meaningful thing to me because I want to be the agent that I would hire. And that's
Yeah.
just really important to me. So sometimes it's client events, sometimes it's periodic outreaches or anniversary outreaches or holiday-based outreaches. But in general, I like to work with the people that are responsive and who understand the benefit and the value of client referrals. If you send me to your mom, I just feel like part of the family because you trusted me with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That makes sense. So let me ask, sometimes there's misconceptions, right? For especially more maybe a first-time home buyer. Are there any myths that you see out there that you commonly hear?
Well, so there's kind of a culture that says right now young people can't afford homes. And I won't say that that's completely untrue. However, if you're in a stable employment situation and you need a home, chances are there's a way to get you there.
Right.
And sometimes people think, well, I don't have 20% to put down. You don't need 20%
Yeah.
down. You might need 5% or 3 or 3.5%. And in some cases, nothing.
Yeah. There's a lot of really great loan programs out there.
There really are. And it's just a matter of accessing them.
Right.
So if you're thinking about, okay, I need to move out of my condo, I need to move out of my mom's basement, whatever it is, talk with me about it, because we can find a way to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
There just is a way to do what you want to do.
Absolutely. 100%. Like there's always a plan, right? We need to come up with the plan together, and maybe it's a 2-month plan, maybe it's a 2-year plan, but it's important to have that plan. And anyone who wants to be a homeowner, there's a way to do it.
There really is.
Yeah.
I got a referral from a guy that was looking for a $175,000 home with his lender wanted him to have 6% FHA closing cost credit and no down payment of any kind. And I looked at this referral. I thought, well, this is a good plan for a long term. This is not going to be tomorrow. But honestly, they structured something that would take somebody who had no basis to own a home,
Okay.
and turn their reliability into a way to own their own home and build equity and have ownership rights and preferences.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so true, because I think that's a common fear that people have, is like, I'll never be able to own a home. It's too hard. It's too difficult. Do you have any stories like that of maybe somebody that didn't think they could own a home and actually ended up purchasing?
I have some favorites. One of my first ones was a referral that I got from somebody in my office who just didn't want to work the price point.
Okay.
And I looked at that, and I was talking to the lender, and they let me know that, we could double the purchase price of this person's property if we do it in a duplex.
Oh,
And because what happens is you count the rental income of the other side
okay.
towards the income, which offsets the payment.
Thinking outside the box.
Right. And so we doubled the purchase price this person was eligible for, which took him back into the price point the original agent would have liked to have worked in. But we did,
funny.
and we found him something. And honest to God, 17 years later, he still lives there, still an income property. It's probably almost paid for by now.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He would not have been able to own a home ordinarily. But we just think of, well, home ownership isn't always 4 walls and the yard. Sometimes it's the yard and the house and maybe a shared wall.
Yeah.
And honestly, the house lived like a single family home.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
I love those.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, Renee. Thank you so much for being here today and being a guest and letting me ask you all these questions. If someone wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So I'm kind of a cell phone junkie. I usually wear it around my neck. So if you text or call me at 847-687-1954, you're probably going to get me one way or the other. The texts are the best backup, but feel free to leave a voicemail. But I also use social media, so you can reach me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of those.
All right, amazing. And if you wanted to get a hold of me, you can reach me on my cell phone at 262-496-4582. I usually always answer, but you can also send me a text. You can also find me on all major forms of social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Thank you again for being here today. This has been fun.
That's good.